Welcome to Making Change, a podcast to understand current events and explore how to make positive changes in ourselves and the world. I am your host, Mark Gopin, Director of CRDC, Professor and Practitioner of Conflict Healing at George Mason University. Today's episode is called 70-something and Productive: New Opportunities for Humanity. This is a periodic installment in a series on future matters. Imagining possible futures is essential to human adaptation and survival. Each challenge that we face as a human community is also an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for creative change, and actually turning deficits into assets, turning things that are threatening to us into things that help us to survive. That is a way to not only improve the lot of humanity, not only to make this earth sustainable, it's also a way for us to survive in a much more healthy way, psychologically speaking. We have a tendency to emphasize danger. We have a tendency to emphasize threats, and that has been adaptive and helpful over the course of hundreds of thousands of years. But it is also, when in excess, makes us paralyzed and makes us uncreative and makes us desperate, which sometimes leads to very questionable behavior on a moral level, a grab for whatever one can find because we're feeling desperate. Today, I want to suggest that the aging population of the world is something that is often presented in the media as a threat, as a danger, because there is a phenomenal rise in the diseases of old age, a phenomenal rise in Alzheimer's, in cognitive decline, in dementia, and that is seen as a major threat. There are also challenges to the fact that the aging population and the surviving of so many different diseases in your 50s and 60s is now turning into a new challenge and a new difficulty for people who have both children and very old parents. And so they're trying to take care of two generations at the same time. And this is causing great stress because we have not worked out as humanity yet the way in which these can be balanced, the ways in which senior life can flourish in a healthier way and a more financially sustainable way than what we have at the present time, particularly in Western societies such as the United States, where there is very little in the way of a social safety net and health care, and that is causing great distress for those who are facing astronomical costs for senior care, that is stretching the limits of even comfortable families, let alone poor families. I want to look into that a little bit more today. According to the United Nations, the global population of people over 65 is expected to double in from 727 million people in 2020 to over 1.5 billion people by 2050. So those over 70 would be a significant subset of this group. This is due, as we said, to many improvements in healthcare and the physical condition of older adults, many diseases that have been survived due to amazing advances in modern medicine, particularly in terms of prevention of catastrophic and fatal illness, or at least the delay of those symptoms significantly by many years, such as heart disease and diabetes, etc. Labor force participation of older age groups is increasing. And that's because of, to some degree, economic necessity, because there's not enough available for health care when you retire. But it's also a desire to remain active. And the fact that as people stay healthier for longer, They would rather be productive. They would rather continue to work. Now, that doesn't mean that some people are tired of their job after 20 years and are ready for a change. But ready for a change is not the same thing as doing nothing. Ready for change is not the same thing as becoming unproductive. And there's significant evidence that unproductivity and uncreativity and a lack of meaning and purpose that comes through the collegiality of teamwork and other ways in which work regulates your life, it doesn't mean that that should be gone. That should be considered an essential part of life well beyond the age of retirement that has currently been assumed to be the case. Basically, 65 is a relic from a time in which people were sicker, much younger, and dying much younger. And that leaves us with an interesting challenge and an interesting opportunity. There are many reasons why staying at work or changing and evolving to different and new kinds of work after 65 or after 70 could actually stave off all of the physical and mental illnesses that are coming fast to people who retire. Basically, the approach to staving off cognitive decline is cognitive engagement. In other words, there is a way at this point to prevent cognitive decline by cognitive engagement. And that means work that has problem solving and planning and execution that all keep the brain active. This could delay the onset of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. It also seems to be very important to us to be living with a sense of purpose. We continue to work and stay productive, and it gives us a sense of accomplishment. It gives us a sense of well-being, and it is an antidote to loneliness, isolation, and depression. It's an opportunity to be with other people and doing something meaningful. Now, even if most of the 1.5 billion people in 50 years from now who are older than 70 are going to be somewhat disabled, we have to assume that at least 10% would be completely able-bodied. That's already about 100 million people in the world that we need to plan and prepare for how they can be creatively engaged and contribute to the world economy and contribute to their own sense of purpose in the world. What can they do that will be productive? We know there are things that you do better when you're young. We know that problem solving and certain puzzles, etc., are faster among younger people and get slower and slower among older people. But we also know that there are certain skills that people have that get stronger with time. And especially when it comes to things like wisdom, when it comes to a sense of experience indicating better paths and worse paths forward. And that is crucial for the running of any society, the running of nonprofits, the running of every single business, the running of government. And so, what I'm proposing is that we need to start thinking about very specific and creative ways that every person over 70, able bodied, and then moderately disabled, can be able to be part of the future of productivity in the world. Wisdom and reflection increase in old age. Some things get better and should be capitalized upon. Every business in the world should have a senior advisory council and paid honorary amounts to give opinions on the way things run. This could improve the functioning of businesses, both small and large, in their communities, because people with a very long sense of experience and history can give perspective on what will emerge from a particular business with its plans as they develop. Workplace policies are another matter. It is particularly the case that as people get older, they've seen many different generations of workers who are both happy and unhappy, who have left or who have stayed. They have a better sense of how a business can thrive or a company can thrive. Elders are in a particularly good position to design work that accommodates the physical needs of many people at various ages who are either disabled or who need special facilities or who need flex time. They can be in a position to analyze this and to help with these executive decisions. It is also a way to think about jobs in new ways based on skills and strengths of older workers that would focus on advisory roles, mentoring, and strategic roles. It's also the case that many people at work can become isolated because there is a sense of heavy competition with peers that leaves a person feeling isolated even in the context of work. Mentors who are at a senior level and who are no longer part of the so called rat race can be in a better position to mentor and help people over the rough edges and make a workforce more consistent, more productive, and more trusting of its environment. My mother is 101 years old now. She needs full time care in her home. We've been able to manage due to her savings and her excellence at business. We have managed to be able to provide her with 24/7 accompaniment and care in order for her not to fall, in order for her to deal with a variety of cognitive issues that are now difficult for her. But I can remember how many years she kept herself active with every detail of the financial records, every single company, every single bill, and she prided herself in being a person who was not only frugal but also examining of every detail of every financial relationship and also everything that the house needed in order to be in good shape. These were things that animated her. These were things that gave her meaning and purpose because the house was also a place of welcoming to all of her children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren who still visit regularly to this day. These things kept her life going. They kept her productivity going for a very, very long time, right through her late 90s. And this is something that we need to consider, and that is how can everybody between their 70s and upward be part of teams and part of efforts that involve uh, creativity, that involve collegiality, that involve cooperation, and that keep them making a valuable contribution to society. In my mother's case, the valuable contribution was keeping a home going that was always a welcoming place for dozens of people in her family. And that was welcoming to them physically, welcoming to them emotionally, a place of sustenance, a place of great food and great holidays. And that has great value for society. So, if nothing else, for the patriarchs and matriarchs of families to continue to be able to provide a comfortable space of gathering, that in itself is a contribution to the society. But there are other ways for people who don't have necessarily a house to welcome everybody to, but are part of a retirement home. We need to become more productive ourselves, more creative ourselves in how every retirement home can have some product, some service that they are delivering to the world, some path of mentorship for young children, for animals in distress, for cleanup, for maintenance of care of environments, for many things that they could possibly contribute that would be meaningful to them on a daily basis. Being meaningful, having a meaningful purpose in life is at the core of what makes us human. The ethical and decent thing to do is to make sure that everybody on this planet has some way to express themselves in a meaningful, productive way. This will solve many problems at once. If companies and businesses and governments start to think creatively about what is still missing from the good society, what services could be provided with not necessarily a very large amount of financial remuneration for people who are retired and actually can't afford it but still want to be productive, what ways can they contribute that will give them a sense of purpose and that will also be a major contribution to society? What are the costs of so many people younger than 70 not having enough mentorship, not having enough guidance through decisions that they are making that may be quite costly because there is a lack of social guidance, a lack of elders to help them through difficult moments. So, for a variety of reasons, the human community of people 70 and up, which is 723 million people across the planet now, going up to 1.5 billion, is a resource that is ready and waiting to contribute to the future of humanity. No one should be idle completely. Everyone should feel a sense of purpose. Coming back again to my mother, I can say that even at 101, she has a sense of purpose because her aides talk to her all day and all night, and many of them listen to her advice. And she has conversations for hours on end every day. That too is a deep sense of purpose that is priceless in terms of its positive benefits for my mother, but it's also the positive benefits for the people that she is speaking to, whether it be workers working with her or whether it be children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Life, even unto its last days, can be a symphony of productivity, a symphony of mutuality and care for others, a symphony of meaning that is shared by people even when they are pretty disabled and even when they are in pretty strong cognitive decline. They still can be an amazing asset to the future of humanity. That not only helps them, it helps the future of all of humanity. And it may be the missing link in terms of us finding a way for the planet to be sustainable, for humanity to be sustainable, because we need to incorporate more the wisdom of elders into the way we conduct our everyday affairs and the way in which we plan for the future. Thank you for joining me on Making Change, a podcast to understand current events and explore how to make positive changes in ourselves and the world. I'm your host, Mark Gopin. Please check out my recent book, Compassionate Reasoning, Changing the Mind to Change the World, Oxford University Press. Also, check out Healing the Heart of Conflict, 8 Crucial Steps to Making Peace with Yourself and Others. Plug those titles into Google with the words Mark Gopin and books. Please see our Facebook page, Making Change with Dr. Mark Gopin, and website, markgopin.com. Blessings to you today for a healthy mind and body, for safety and for a flourishing life. For personal consultations and coaching, please contact me at gopenmark@gmail.com.